Hi everyone, so usually at this time of day, I'd be doing my devblog video, because it's early on the morning, but they haven't posted it. And there's no patch notes, and there's no patch yet, so I'm assuming they're making some last minute changes, as I know there were some niggling things that people mentioned, so I think they're possibly reworking a couple of things. I don't think it will affect the divisions too much, possibly an adjustment of transport options, but I think the 11th will be pretty much as it is. So I thought we'd have a look at the 11th. And then later on, I'll post a video looking at the 119th as well. We'll see if in the meantime a patch list comes out and there are any adjustments. But when I make that video, I will mention the query transport in that deck that is going to be looked at, I think. So, with all that said, welcome to the 11th Armoured Cavalry Regiment. The Black Horse Division. I think, you know, it's mentioned in a lot of games, and there's Black Horse's Last Stand in this, and I think Regiments talks about it. I think it's in there as well. I think it's quite famous. I'm not a huge military buff, guys, so you will know better than me, but obviously it is referenced multiple times in multiple games, so I do notice these things at least. These new divisions are a bit of a funny one. So the first thing is logistics obviously is tiny. And it's not just that it's tiny in terms of you get 4 slots, it's that they're expensive. So one activation point slot, you only get one of them, then it's 2, 2, 3. It's quite an expensive area. So as soon as you've taken 2 of those, you've already spent 3 points, and then you're going to spend another 2 to take a command. And you're going to, you know, you need supply. So you're going to be taking at least that much. It's no good just taking one set of trucks, because in a longer game, you're going to be stuffed. Infantry, I mean, in very much the same vein, there is not a lot of space here. 2 1-point activation slots, a 2-point and 2 3-points. It's expensive, but you're going to have to fill it. You can't not fill it, right? You need infantry in this game. Now, patch being patch, again, I think there might be adjustments to the patch. So what I'm going to say is this. If there aren't any adjustments to the patch compared to what we had, and you'll know exactly what I'm getting at when the patch notes come out, anything with the shock trait is going to be amazing. Okay? I'm saying it now. I think that's going to be adjusted. That could be why they're holding it back. But I'm not certain. I just suspect that it's maybe a bit... maybe got a bit carried away, let's say. Again, I can't say the patch notes because the agreement is we don't. And I will wait till the official ones are posted because I think that will be something that changes. If it doesn't, again, shock troops are going to be amazing. That, you know, engineers with the satchel charges, engineers flash. I mean, you certainly want these anyway in this deck. I mean, one thing you don't get in here is any military police. We discussed this on stream yesterday, but I think you have a nice selection of units here. Obviously, you get the Panzer Grenadiers with the Marders, and you know the Marders are reasonable vehicles, so I'd certainly be taking them. I mean, you get so few slots here, though, but it's just not safe to take trained because they just become useless so quickly. It's a Matsuchi we were discussing on stream yesterday as well. Some people still take them, but without military police, they're still got this issue of the trait, the reservist trait, so they're unsteady. So without the police to remove that, then going to be no use to you. So Panzer Grenadiers, obviously a good choice here. Engineers Dragon, you know, that again a pretty good choice in terms of, you know, big unit size. Aero rifles, good, bit expensive, but good for getting up front and personal quickly. Mech rifles are obviously a fantastic set of units. Again, you're only getting 6 once you rank them up, but they can come in the Dragon, so at least you get some more ATGM support there if you want it. This is the new squad. Dismount troops, it's an amalgamation of, was it 2-man squads they said in the dev blog? So basically they took a bunch of squads and then put them together. And then, you know, they've got reasonable stuff. They've got AT4s, they've got M249s. I think that's a good squad. A little bit pricey maybe for a 6-man squad, 60 points. I suppose they've got decent gear though. They don't have anything special in terms of traits though. I mean, their security, but they're going to be a staple for anti-tank in this deck, really, because they're certainly, you know, they're better than these guys who've only got the law. But at the same time, there's 11 of them for 50. It's really difficult. Really difficult between these two, because they seem really expensive. I know they get the AT4, but they're like half the size, the squad. I don't know. What do you guys think? Let me know down in the comments, especially, you know, you guys who play 1v1 ranked and stuff like that. It makes more of a difference, like how specific units fit in versus price and everything else. It matters more to you than it would to those of us who play team games mainly. Let's move on anyway. You know, the infantry here, there's nothing new except the dismount troopers. And obviously, you've got very limited infantry. Artillery-wise, I mean, you've got the mortars, you got the Panda mortar. I don't know why they've put so many mortars in here. I can't imagine you would take more than one. And then artillery as well. You've got two choices here. This is 10 points more. And the only difference is its range. And it actually has a worse machine gun, because it's much shorter range. Although it's better accuracy in motion. And technically its base rate of fire, quote-unquote, is better, but I see no reason you wouldn't just take that and save yourself 10 points. I don't think there's any big advantage to that. The only other thing I could see is taking both of those in the deck, I guess, both cards, if you were so inclined. But again, expensive slots. Tanks. Tanks. So, I mean, this is a funny one, this deck, in the tanks are, well, as you can see, it's all M1A1 Abrams. There's not really a lot of choice here at all. And you're literally going to be taking all 6 of those, in my opinion. Why wouldn't you? It's a tank deck. You're going to take all the tanks. And then you got the Abrams command tank as well. We're going to take both of those. Yeah. And then we've got Jaguars, which you could rank up with the TOW2s, but I wouldn't bother because you're going to be using them at maximum range, hopefully. So we'll take that. And then the CEV as well. And again, I suppose you potentially rank it up, but it's mainly going to be against infantry. So ranking it up, does it do a lot versus infantry? Probably not. And you've taken everything that's available to you. I mean, if you really want some points elsewhere, drop the CEV or the Jaguar. And I mean, you could, to be fair, even drop one of the M1A1s. Not sure there's much of a benefit. I mean, you could go to Elite if you want. You'd still have plenty of tanks. But since you are a tank-focused deck, I'd take as many as possible at the reasonable vet level. And you could always keep a command near them to raise them up, since you know, you have 4 command tanks. Recon, and this is the weirdest part of this deck. It's the weirdest part of this deck, and it's almost as weird in the 119th. I don't know why a deck has so much recon space in this game. Recon is weird to me in this game. It is nowhere near as efficient and understandable as Wargame Red Dragon. It just feels all over the place at times. And even with the line of sight tool, sometimes it doesn't make sense. And I know I'm not the only person who feels that way. Sometimes you look on the line of sight tool, think something is visible or not visible, and the opposite is the case. I don't understand why it's like that, but it still feels like an issue. But your big thing here, obviously, is what everyone was expecting and waiting for, is the M1A1 ACAV. So it is a recon tank. Its stealth is bad, though. So, you know, it doesn't have much stealth. Its optics are good. Okay, so that's nice. The thing that's the advantage here is it's forward deployable. You have a forward deployable tank. Now, it's going to be slow getting into the front lines, so it's not as good as the MX-10. But you're going to have a big tank at the front line before anyone else does. And you can only take 2 of them, but you're going to take both because, let's be honest, you've got a single activation point slots all the way up here. You're going to take the Bradleys. I wouldn't bother ranking them up, I decided, because you're going to be using them at long range, realistically. If a tank gets in range of them, they're going to die in a hit. Any big tanks are going to kill them in one hit. So, you know, stressed on them, I feel, doesn't matter as much to me, but you might feel differently. LRS have obviously been moved here, and they're pretty good. They have the ground surveillance radar, so we'll definitely take those as well. And we have a lot of recon now, don't we? I mean, do you take some scouts as well, or some BGS? I mean, there are plenty of options here. Maybe take some choppers. You got the Kiowa Warrior that got a price decrease recently, didn't it? It's with Hellfires. Humvee with the grenade launcher. I mean, grenade launcher is not bad. So you could fill the other 1-point activation slot if you want. I'll leave that to you. Let's move on. I'm trying to get through this reasonably quickly because there's not a lot of new stuff. AA here. It's not great, is it? I mean, you got the Eyehawk, let's be honest. That's what you really want here. The Eyehawk, the Stinger, and the Pivads probably. I mean, not really bothered about the Figure Force. We're going to take the Stinger. We're going to take the Eyehawk. And then I suppose you could it's, again, expensive cards. But, yeah, I would take the Pivads, perhaps. I'm not really bothered about the Chopper. I don't think they're performing well enough at the moment. You know, compared to how the anti-air choppers perform in Wargame Red Dragon, and I think even earlier in WARNO's development, they were much better. But since they've added ECM to choppers, you know, the ECM on choppers, I still think is a bit of a mistake. I think I would have made them a little bit sturdier if you wanted to increase their survivability, rather than add ECM, because it's made the, you know, the likelihood of missiles missing so much. You can have 2 anti-air units firing at a chopper and still miss everything. So, I still don't like that mechanic. But yeah, Pivads, why not? Helicopters, loads of slots, some cheap slots. I mean, really, you're going to do that. Again, you're not going to rank them up. You're going to take two sets of those. And then I suppose you might take a Cobra, or even the Cobra with just the missiles. I guess that's a little bit more harassment, isn't it? And you could fill more slots here. That, you know, you've got 2 activation point slots there. Let's move on to air. But you're limited to Cobras. Nothing too exciting. The big exciting thing is the Sea Knight, because it's got the TOW 2. Now here, it's all F-16s. All F-16s. You have no HE bombers. You've got AT, you've got Cluster, you've got Siege, you've got Fighting Falcon, which you're definitely going to need because your anti-air isn't great. And you've got Laser Guided Bomber, which is going to be your stand-in for effectively your HE bomber. I mean, I don't know why you would take the F-16 anti-tank when you have access to the Thunderbolt anti-tank. They're the same price, but the Thunderbolt is going to be much better at taking out choppers and everything else, in my opinion. So, you know, look at the penetration on that gun, 6. So I know it's slower, and the ECM isn't as good, but there's no way I wouldn't be taking the Thunderbolt there out of the 2 of them. You do get the HE A10, so in fairness, right, in fairness, you do get a HE bomber. But I think you'll struggle sometimes to reach your target with this. I think it might get shot down before you get there. Certainly, I think it's going to get stunned before it gets there a lot of the time. It's not fast enough. And it's going to be coming in low and slow, you know? So that one I'm really not sure about. I realize it is HE, but really you'd be wanting HE from an F-16. So this is an option. Definitely, don't get me wrong. It is an option. A-10 rocket. The rocket attack jets are still really good, so I wouldn't rule those out. And again, it's an A-10. You got Seed in there, which is fine. You've got Clusters in there, which is just the 2 clusters, but they do a lot of damage. So they're not bad either. You just got to be pretty accurate with them. But yeah, that's the deck. This has been reasonably short and sweet. As I say, I didn't want it to be too long at all. So there you go. A quick look through the deck. And we will see what the patch notes bring, hopefully sooner rather than later. I'll see you all soon.